Hey movers, Rod here from Movement Theory. Just shooting the first episode of Movement Theory and TV. I just want to give you a bit of a rundown on me as a person, as a physio, as a friend, as a normal person living everyday life, and just give you a bit of a story on what my journey has been from moving to Australia and sort of how that sort of progressed to where I am today. I moved to Australia back in '89 with my mum, my dad, my younger and older brother, and my grandparents. And we came to Australia basically because mum and dad wanted to give me and my brothers a better quality of life. So that was always their vision, and hopefully I've fulfilled their needs and got to where I wanted to get to in life. But it was a bit of a journey to get to where I am today. Always had the support from my parents from a young old age, got me into sport, and I think that's where I started to develop a little bit of an interest in physiotherapy, because when I was 12 years old, I broke my leg. So I needed to go see a physio, do a bit of rehab, and one of the earliest memories I had as a 12-year-old was having this little device on my leg that used to sort of warm up. And I was like, oh, that was always felt really comforting and nice, and I was really interested in why they were using this machine. Now, we fast forward now to where I am today. It's called an ultrasound machine. I don't use machines anymore, so it's quite interesting that I was very interested in this machine, and now I don't even use machines when I'm using my manual therapy techniques and my movement therapy techniques. So that's where I developed this little interest in physiotherapy. Moving forward, I always played sport, always getting injuries here and there, rolled ankles, sore back. I remember doing my back a few years ago, trying to be a bit of a hero in the gym, just chucked 60 kilos on, did a bit of a squat, and got to about 8 reps and felt a little niggle in my back and probably overdone it a little bit. So I think I've been through a lot as a person with injuries, and I think that's where I started to sort of be a little bit more inquisitive and sort of ask myself, why am I getting these injuries? What can I do about these injuries? And I guess that's where I sort of took my journey on to being a physiotherapist. I actually went and did a bit of took a scenic route to get to where I am today. So I didn't get the grades that I needed to back in year 12. Probably got caught up in the wrong crowd a little bit. Spent a little bit too much time enjoying myself. But I got into Bachelor of Science. That was my first degree I got into. But then I quickly transitioned over to Human Movement, or Bachelor of Health Sciences back in those days. And that sort of diverted my journey towards sort of the physiotherapy side of things. So I finished my Human Movement degree, which was a great degree. It's basically just PE 24/7, which I really loved. Always loved PE in school. And that transitioned me to being a physio, or getting into the Master of Physiotherapy, which was a graduate entry program over 2 years. When I graduated and came out of university, I actually got given the opportunity to work in aged care. So I was, prior to that, working as a physiotherapy assistant, and I actually got given a great opportunity to start as a new grad on some pretty reasonable money, which is, as a new grad, you're sort of always looking at seeing how much money you'll get paid. It was quite a healthy amount, and off I went. So I spent 5 years working in aged care, and I think I learned a lot of fundamental skills and values working with the elderly. So I learned a lot about respect. I also learned a lot about empathy, because a lot of these guys went through a lot back in the war times, and sort of a lot of adversity, and some people even back in the Great Depression sort of era. So it gave me a lot of perspective on the world. For someone who's actually been through a lot, it gave me a lot of sort of motivation and insight, and I think I gained a bit of wisdom from that as well. And even though the physiotherapy side of it wasn't too involved, I learned a lot of other life lessons that I think have really put me in good stead to where I am today. With my role in aged care, it moved me away from being a manual therapist or on the tools manual therapist to actually being a consultant. So I actually did some work with the aged care funding instrument, which is the government instrument that all aged care facilities utilise to receive government funding. And I'd go in there, assess the resident, and based on their care needs that they require, what's their ADL's requirement, what's their behaviour requirement, and what's their complex healthcare requirements, we can sort of work out what sort of level of funding they can get. So I was doing a lot of admin type work, and I was sort of in management, and I was kind of a little bit lost. I was like, well, if I'm in this sort of field, maybe I'll go get a business master's degree. And that's what I actually did. So I think it was about 2016, I started an MBA, which I actually loved. Only sort of did the first semester, and then an opportunity arose by chance, and it's an opportunity that I obviously grasped at the time, and this has led me to where I am today, to operate out of a space. The space was next to, at the time, CrossFit Beach Mode down here in Somerton Park. And when I first came to look at the space, it was literally a bare room. Okay, so it was a big room. There was no carpet, there was no walls, there was no roof, there was no beautiful mural, as you can see over here. It was just an empty space. But I had a canvas to work with. I had ideas of what I wanted to do. A lot of talented friends as well in the building industry, and they all got around me and supported me and allowed me to sort of develop a little clinic with a little waiting area and a treatment room, and that's where I've been practicing for the last 2.5 years. Starting movement theory was a big risk. I was in quite a secure job, and Dad probably wasn't too happy about me taking the plunge, but I've always had a vision. I've always been a bit entrepreneurial, and I thought, well, what better to start a business than a physiotherapy business? And that's what I did. So positioning myself next to a CrossFit gym, a lot of my friends probably think I'm a genius, but that was just an opportunity that came about. So moving on from that though, having the chance to be next to a CrossFit gym and be involved in a community of people that do train quite hard and do end up having aches and pains has allowed me to develop my client base. And I'm forever grateful to the guys at now Forward Strength and Fitness for giving me the opportunity to be a part of their community and to look after their clients, in whatever needs that they might have. Now, also not working in private practice before, this is 2.5 years ago, I had the challenge to differentiate myself from every other physio in the area. Now, if you know the area well, on Brighton Road, down here in Brighton, Somerton Park, there's quite a number of physiotherapists around. So I did have a bit of a challenge to sort of break into that market, but I stumbled across a book. First of all, that was the first little step I took in the right direction to sort of seeing how I view the body now and how I treat. And the book was called Anatomy Trains. And Anatomy Trains talks about this concept of fascial lines. So instead of a bicep flexing an arm, they talk about an arm line doing all of that together. So muscles working in tandem. So I started to look at the body more holistically. I started to move away from, okay, so if you've got a knee injury, let's just do stuff to the knee. Let's tape the knee, let's massage the knee, let's dry needle the knee, whatever thing might actually help that knee. I started to really step back and look at the whole body on a global perspective. And I think that one book has changed the way that I viewed the body forever. After reading the book, I was actually lucky enough to be able to undertake some more study with fascia manipulation and be part of a 6-part series that was brought to Adelaide, so I didn't have to travel interstate to do any courses. So that really developed my visual skills, being able to pick out postural imbalances that a client might present with. And these postural imbalances might not actually mean anything, but it's the body giving me information, okay? And there's this big thing about, is posture bad? Is posture good? Posture is posture. It holds us up. But sometimes if we spend too much time in a certain posture, it can overload certain structures. So when we go to the gym, for example, if we're stuck in a certain way and we're trying to squat or deadlift, then our body isn't mechanically efficient enough to actually tolerate the load. Okay, so on this journey, I stumbled across another interesting, and is now probably one of my biggest mentors, man by the name of Gary Ward. And Gary has a pretty unique history as well, how he became an educator and how he teaches people about basically what the foot does and how the foot and its contribution to the gait cycle and how that marries up the whole body and how the whole body is basically determined by having a solid foundation. Gary wrote a book and it's called What the Foot. Now, What the Foot is based around a concept that Gary has developed called Anatomy in Motion. Now, Anatomy in Motion, or AIM for short, is based around this flow motion model. And this flow motion model basically describes every movement that happens at every joint during the gait cycle, which is something like 0.8 seconds. Okay, so all of these movements happen in a very short period of time, but if something isn't moving in the gait cycle, that's how we have compensation, and that's how we that's how we develop pain. Okay, so that was another journey that I went on with Gary. This was 2 years ago, and he took me under his wing during the course because he noticed that I had some issues with my knees, and this is probably stemming down to that first injury that I ever had when I fractured my leg when I was 12. And this is why I look at someone's injury history very detailed, because generally speaking, someone's initial injury that they had, they might be holding on to some postural adaptation that they never got out of. Okay, so I guess this is that appreciation of the whole body. It's an appreciation of someone's entire history, and it's treating someone on a much more profound level than just what they present with to the clinic. Okay, and this is how I changed my physiotherapy practice from university to a more holistic approach rather than a symptom-based approach. So if someone's coming in with a sore shoulder, yes, I'm going to do some shoulder tests and things like that, and I'm going to test for tone and trigger points and all that sort of stuff. But I'm also just going to look to see how they move on a whole picture, okay, how their whole body moves in space. After having the anatomy trained staff and having the anatomy in motion course, I thought to myself, I've found my niche and I've found my passion, and this is how I want to develop movement theory. And movement theory was obviously developed way before this. So movement theory was a vision I had, that I wanted to name my clinic something that was unique. Okay. Now I could have named it Ventura Physiotherapy, so Ventura is my last name, or I could have named it something to do with physiotherapy, but I just wanted to stand out from the crowd, and that's what sort of came about with the movement theory name. Is I wanted something that was going to be more than just physiotherapy. Okay, I wanted to be an integrative brand that will tie in different disciplines, so whether it's massage therapy, chiropractic, nutrition, psychology, general practitioner. I wanted to be able to have something that is quite scalable and basically have a one-stop shop for people to come in and be looked after from a holistic level. And just during my studies and during my reading and educating over the last few years, I've developed this understanding that the body is more than just aches and pains when it comes to physiotherapy. Okay, there's other factors involved. There's sleep, there's nutrition, there's hydration, there's your mental capacity or stress, or how you deal with stress. So when someone comes to me, it's more than just, hey, you've got a sore knee. It's like, hey, so what do you do for work? Okay, so how often do you spend moving? Or what's your sleep patterns like? And then we can refer on if we need to. Like if I need to send someone off to a general practitioner that I trust, I can do that. But it's about trying to understand the client and being there for the client rather than just their shoulder injury they've come into the clinic for. So So that's kind of been my journey to where I am today, and I guess my vision for the future is to keep developing the concepts that I've learned, so with the anatomy in motion, with the anatomy trains, fascia manipulation, and I guess the space that we're in at the moment, so this is COVID-19 we're talking about, we're moving more into a movement-based sort of space, and you guys will be bearing the fruit of that in weeks to come when I'll be putting out a lot more content that's going to be based around movement. Okay, so and this is where I wanted to take movement theory to probably in the next year or two, but we're actually fast tracking it now, which I'm actually quite excited about. And I'll be able to sort of basically assess someone's movement, pick up where they're not moving, and try and integrate more movement into that system so they can actually start to access what they currently don't access. Okay, that's basically a bit of a rundown on my journey to where I am today, in terms of coming to Australia, starting a clinic, and now practicing in a unique manner. I'm quite grateful that I've stumbled across these fantastic mentors in Gary Ward, and I've had a lot of different mentors through the Anatomy Trains program as well. But I'm really excited to take on the next step of my journey in sort of refining the online consultation space, being able to provide value to all of my clients, whether that's a face-to-face consultation, whether that's an online consultation. I really want to be able to help as many people as I can, and continuing to grow. And every day I'm learning, I'm reading. I'm currently reading a really good book at the moment. So I might plug Dr. Raymond Chatterjee on here. It's called the 4-Pillar Plan, and he talks about those 4 pillars of health that I mentioned before. So I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly developing, and I think I've found my passion, and I think my clients see that when they're in a consultation with me. It honestly feels like they're coming in for a friendly chat and conversation, and I'm doing some work with them. It never feels like work to me. I get here early, I leave late, and I think as cliche as it sounds, when you find something that you love, you really don't ever work a day in your life, and that's what I feel like I'm doing. Look, thanks for listening, guys. I can't wait to bring out some more content. This has been on the pipeline for a long time. I'm a busy boy, but we're all busy, so we need to make some time, and at the moment I do have some time up my sleeve to bring out some online content in a video format, and for you guys to really sort of see who I am as a person, who's the brains behind the page and all that sort of stuff. I am a one-man show at the moment, so I don't have much help. I do have a lovely camera person behind helping me out, but at the moment, it's just me. I'm very excited to create some content that will help the everyday person with whatever issue they may have. And I don't like to use the word issue, but any restriction, any impairment, any niggle that someone might have, just getting people to move better. And basically that's my motto, as you might see on my post, #MoveBetter. So I'll leave you guys there. Thanks for listening, and I hope to be chatting with you real soon. Take care.